What's going on, everybody? Teej joined with a very special guest today as we're going to run through a updated 2024 NFL mock draft. So it is my pleasure to introduce the channel, Hail Mary Sports. Alex, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. And man, I'm really excited to run through this mock draft with you.
I know it's always great to get a mock draft in. I know that we were planning on doing maybe a different type of video, but I was like, screw it. Let's go all the way. Let's go balls to the wall. So mock draft's always fun. Might as well get another one in.
And I mean, especially this early on, we can explore so many different possibilities. And then push comes to shove. It's like, hey, well, it was August. We were allowed to be kind of crazy. And like you said, go balls to the wall. So yeah, perfect. We're going to go through a one round 2024 mock draft. I'll take the odds. Alex will take the evens. We'll kind of explain each pick, kind of go back and forth, and be pretty straightforward from there. So with that being said, I'm on the NFL mock draft database.com mock draft simulator. We kick things off with the Arizona Cardinals. And Alex, I don't know about you, but man, I have been avoiding the idea of having Arizona pick one because I just don't want to have the Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, what do you do situation. But let's say new GM Monty Ossenforth going into his second draft. Obviously, it'd be Gannon going into his first or second full offseason as the head coach. Let's say maybe they do want to change it up and they take Caleb Williams at number one overall. You and I were talking for a little bit before we started recording. It's going to be him or Marvin Harrison at the top of my board. It comes down to Marvin Harrison's pound for pound and like taking position value out of it, the best football player in this class probably. But Caleb Williams plays the most important position. So, how do you weigh that? But I'm going to go Caleb Williams one. And then the question would be, what are you doing with Kyler and how much can you really get in exchange for Kyler given the contract he's got?
Yeah, that's the big question about it because there's so much dead cap. But we've seen even in like the Aaron Rodgers situation, him sitting for an extensive period of time, regardless of the talent, you definitely don't need to let Caleb sit. But if you just want to say, screw it, we have our guy for the future and we're willing to just say, hey, we can have a good quarterback competition, keep somebody healthy until, there's an exit option. By all means, do your thing. I was really kind of intrigued to see if you were going to screw me over by going Marvin number one.
I thought about it.
I know. I was like, damn, I had to plan it out, but I feel like I could just easily answer what I'm going to do here at number two, and that's Marvin Harrison to give the best of the best to Arizona.
Which, man, if you're a Cardinals fan, I know you're salivating at the idea of like, we could get a QB to reset like our winning window, get all the money we owe Kyler, send that to someone else, and then we get maybe the best player of the draft and Marvin Harrison as like the 1-2 punch of the franchise moving forward. Oh my gosh. Real quick, let me just ask you, let's say Kyler does hit the market. A team that immediately jumps to mind for me is Minnesota, like post Kirk Cousins. I could see like Kevin O'Connell questioning wanting to get in on that. But are there any other suitors that kind of jump off the page for you?
I mean, it really depends on the situation with the Jets. I mean, they've already shown the willingness to go and spend a large amount of draft capital on a veteran quarterback to try to win now. Do I think that's a likely option? Probably not. But, I mean, you can see teams like Tampa Bay as well. I mean, they're sitting here at pick 3. If the quarterback you'll probably take for them does not pan out, then, hey, screw it. We're going to send another pick in. We get a guaranteed quarterback. And, I would want Kyler to go to a team with a really good offensive line. Another team that could stand out that might not have a great year, Indianapolis. If Anthony Richardson, who I love, ends up not panning out, it's a spot where you can drop him in. They're already used to mobile quarterbacks. Steichen's used to a mobile quarterback. Could be a good fit.
No doubt. Well, let me get to pick number 3 with Tampa Bay, and I'm probably going to go quarterback here. Some honorable mentions for other options that could be intriguing. I mean, Brock Bowers is going to be, just because of the fact he's a tight end, but he's such a good tight end. It's like, how high is too high? How much can you let that talent fall? Kool-Aid McKinstry certainly in consideration. I just finished doing my final scouting for edge rushers, and trust me, Jared Verse plus Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, that'd be a tandem that get me excited. But look, if it's a camp battle between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, and Baker Mayfield can't pull it away, yeah, you got to go quarterback here. So I'm going to go Drake May here at pick number 3. I feel pretty good about him being QB2 right now. And maybe he can make a push to some people's eyes to be QB1, but size, athleticism, if he has a little bit of too much of a tendency to want to drift and get to that back foot. If he cleans that up, which kind of sounds like a guy who was a first-year starter at North Carolina last year. So, just makes sense. But if he cleans up some of those small stuff, I definitely think he's in that top 5 pick conversation.
For sure. I think realistically, he'll still go here. Again, he was a first-year starter. So there's a lot of issues that I had with him that could easily erase with extra time. But for me, I last year was notorious for having Anthony Richardson as my QB2 coming out the year over CJ Stroud. This year, I have a very, very, very hot take, which based on very limited tape, Joe Milton, I'm projecting to be my QB2, which, I mean, who doesn't love a guy who can throw a 90-yard ball? But he did suck in the past. Yeah. So I'll give it that. The Rams are here at 4, though. And there are a lot of really intriguing options. That defense is crap. Their offense, I mean, it's not necessarily the most high power thing. And if they're sitting here at number 4, there's a good chance that Matt Stafford has retired and Aaron Donald has decided to retire and Sean McVay might have decided to retire. But I'm going to go the smart route. I'm going to just go something safe, which especially if there is a new regime coming in, that could be the way they go. I'm going to go Joe Alt, and I'm just going to get something that is nice, secure, and is good for the long run.
No, I like that a ton. And I was excited when they extended Joe Noteboom. I was like, hey, I think they found something there. And then 2023 happened. And I was 2022 to 23 happened. And I was like, well, maybe not quite. But, bounce back opportunities. But you hit the nail on the head for the Rams, which is crazy. This team won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And you look at a defense that has Aaron Donald on it, but it's Aaron Donald and who else? John Johnson III, I guess now. And then that offense is a Cooper Kupp injury away from being terrible all over again. So, yeah, I like the smart play there. Alt is so well balanced, great run blocker, really plus level pass protector. So you really, it's a pick you can't miss on as much as this the process where there are plenty of misses that you didn't think you could expect. But love that pick there. And honestly, Alt could be an interesting consideration here for Indianapolis. Let's just say Bernard Ryman doesn't take another step forward. So Olu Fashanu, could he be in play? Indy loves their tight ends. Is this a Brock Bowers spot? I'm going to go Jared Verse here. To me, Verse is a guy who would have been a top 10 pick last year. And barring injury, I can't see anything that lowers his stock this year. He's got power, especially for a guy 250. He plays way stronger than that. Plenty of speed, good enough bend. And I love these guys who go from small school to big school. And seeing the guy go from Albany to Florida State and then first game's a Seminole, tear up LSU. It's like, all right, this guy's showing what he needs to do. So, it'd be a cool story if this like small school didn't have any like D1 offers or FCS offers, at least coming out of high school, ultimately becomes a national champion. So I'm not a fan, but if it happens for Florida State, I won't be mad because I think Verse deserves it. And then for Indianapolis, it's like Kwity Paye, still kind of waiting. Deo Dangbo, we're kind of waiting. You add Verse to that defensive line, I think that gives you an immediate impact. And I think that D-line could use it.
Yeah, I think that edge is one of the positions I would target for Indy as well. On my recent edge video, I did end up putting Indy as quite a few of my dream fits for a lot of the guys because it's not extremely high pressure to be a bona fide number 1, but there's still room to grow and really good mentorship there as well. So I like that for sure. Washington, I'm just going to be extremely boring here and just go the normal Brock Bowers pick. On my big board, I do not have him listed as a tight end. I literally, verbatim, he's the only player I've ever done this for. Weapon in all caps. That's it. I don't care where he is. I trust him to do what he's going to do. So hopefully, unlike the next pick, which is Atlanta, they don't end up screwing a weapon, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, Kyle Pitts is kind of the ultimate comp. I mean, they have different strengths, and I think Brock Bowers, especially after the catch, is just a different animal compared to Kyle Pitts. Not that he's bad, but Bowers just stud with the ball in his hands.
He's different.
But then it's like, okay, well, we saw this freak show tight end not get the craziest production, so how early do you take Brock Bowers? But you add him into an Eric Bieniemy offense, and hey, he may be pushing guys too hard, but that offense hasn't been good. So I say push him harder. And you give Bieniemy, if he works out and he is truly a catalyst for the reason Kansas City's offense was so good, you give him Brock Bowers. I mean, don't get ahead of ourselves, but that could be a crazy perfect fit for Bowers. So then we get to Atlanta, man. This is a tough one for me. So this is a team that, I mean, Jesse Bates is the big splash signing on defense, and I'm going to almost certainly go defense here. Quarterback definitely could be in play. I'm not sold on Desmond Ridder, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I've gone quarterback in each of my first 2 2024 mocks. So let's change it up here. Bud Dupree, I don't think is a long-term answer. Arnold Ebiketie might be. And at corner, it's like, I like AJ Terrell. You're hoping Jeff Okudah has a career year, but still a career year for Jeff Okudah right now isn't the highest bar to hit. So I'm kind of going back and forth between Top Robinson, Kool-Aid McKinstry, or Leatu Latu. I like Leatu Latu a lot, but that, I mean, considering you're medically retired because of a neck injury, I just
Mhm.
don't know. I don't know how many teams even have him on his board. Let's go. I'll go safe route here. I'll go Coolin McKinstry. Something that just immediately jumps off the page when you look at his stats, and I had to double check it to make sure this wasn't like BS. 16 PBUs last year. That is ridiculous. Sure, I'd like to see more of those turn into interceptions, but all I know is his job is to make sure a pass is not completed. And 16 PBUs tells me he's doing a great job of that. Plus, ideal size, should be a plus level athlete. We'll see once we get to combine and pro days. But right now, he's shaking up to be a guy that goes somewhere in this top 10 range. And let's just say Jeff Okuda doesn't ultimately do anything more than, what a fifth round, trade compensation would say. And let's say that it's Kool-Aid McKinstry plus AJ Terrell moving forward in that secondary, plus Jesse Bates, that over the top free safety. Whew,
nasty.
A nice step forward for Atlanta.
Yeah, I love that pick. That was my ideal pick for Atlanta at that spot. This next one, I'm going to be going for more the long-term option here. In this kid, I mean, he should have probably come out last year. He didn't even probably think he was ready to. First year starting at left tackle, Olu Fashanu. It's just too good to pass on the traits, and you have an amazing mentor there, and you have time to grow. So I love the upside that you can have there.
Yeah, I got all to OT1, but Fashanu, without a doubt, right now is the best pass protector in this class. So then draft him on a team where he'd be playing behind maybe the best pass protecting left tackle the league has had over the last decade. Chef's kiss. And then you have that perfect continuation of him at left tackle, Elton Jenkins. You can kind of piece him in wherever you need. Love that. Let me just quick random question. What are your kind of thoughts on the Packers this year? Where do you think this team ends up going this season? Like, how well do you think they perform in the NFC North?
So obviously there's a lot of volatility in that because of the fact we don't know how Jordan Love is going to play. But I mean, for me, I ended up giving them a pretty low record when I did my records prediction. It was one of those squads where I looked at it and I was like, I want to give them a higher record. I want to give them more wins. And I just couldn't. We're getting to the point in the NFL where a lot more of these picks are starting to hit. A lot of these guys are starting to stick for longer, and the talent of each team is starting to get higher and higher and higher. So just because you have a good enough team does not mean you're going to win. And if I have a lack of faith in the number one wins above replacement position, I'm naturally going to be a little bit more on the downside. So I have them being the worst in their division, which I believe this confirms that based on this draft order. But I think that if Jordan Love is a top 20 to 15 quarterback, I think this team could easily push to be the number one in their division. It's just he has to perform that well.
And I don't think you're crazy. I think there's a world where Christian Watson has a really nice year too. Romeo Dobbs stops dropping the football. Luke Musgrave is making plays left, right, and center right now in training camp. They have two good running backs. The offensive line, if healthy, is good. The defense, when healthy, is very good. So it's not impossible. It just comes down to we haven't seen Jordan Love do it. So am I really going to put money on that? I'm kind of with you. 7-10, 8-9 is kind of where I got them right now. Them in Chicago, that which says a lot for the NFC North. Those two teams are third and fourth in the division in my preseason records. It's a pretty solid division.
Anyways, I have them winning only 3 games right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hey.
But there's a big disparity.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and I can also see where Jordan Love leads the league in picks this year, doesn't create enough big plays, and you're spot on 3-14. And it's a disastrous year for Matt LaFleur. So it's totally plausible. And you just don't know what you're getting with Love. Anyways, moving on to Tennessee. I'm going to go boring here. I'm not changing this one up. Emeka Egbuka has got to be the pick here. He's right now currently my wide receiver 2. I mean, just so silky smooth as a route runner. And I'm just trying to envision. Will Levis was actually my QB2 last year. And kind of AR definitely probably has the higher ceiling. But I believed in the fact that Levis's situation was just so bad. It almost couldn't be any worse at the NFL level. And now I'm envisioning going into year 2, hopefully still D-Hop. Treylon Burks in year 3. You add Egbuka in there. I'd love me some Chigokonkwo. Hopefully the offensive line work from this offseason pays dividends. That just sounds like a great spot for Will Levis to step into. So I'm doubling down on wide receiver. The other way I could sell myself on it is maybe DeAndre Hopkins is kind of a one-year thing. They ended up parting ways next offseason. Need a replacement. Egbuka could also be that. Have
you watched Antoine Wells yet?
I've not.
So he's a second-round quality receiver for me from South Carolina. He's not extremely fast. I think that's probably his biggest weakness. But when I ended up grading him, I ended up dropping every other receiver that I've graded on because I have a numerical scale. I dropped all of their run after the catch by 1 whole point. So by like roughly 8%. So I think that he is of that caliber to where, like, because I think Ibuka, especially in a situation where D-Hop remains and Traylon, he's going to be in the slot. I think Antoine might be a better value pick, but I fell in love with Ibuka from the moment I saw him. No shame there at all.
Well, actually, you mentioned Wells, and after I finished my receiver scouting, I'm actually from Richmond, Virginia, the 804, and he went to Dinwiddie, I want to say off the top. I can't remember exactly, Douglas Freeman, but basically a high school right around my neck of the woods, within like a 20-minute drive of Manchester High School where I went. And I was like, dang, well, that's cool. So he is on my list to circle back to. I just got to finish my initial position scouting, but I'm really excited. I love supporting guys in and around my area. So 804 for pumping out some good prospects.
Yes. So at pick number 10, because I'm looking at the Raiders, and since we don't have trades, I'm pretty happy letting an edge rusher slip at this point. I'm going to talk about my number 2 wide receiver because I think Chase Claypool is gone. They're going to give the money to Darnell Mooney, and I think they're going to continue.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Mock Draft Database actually has the Bears with the number 10 pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm explaining it ahead. So as the Bears, I am seeing that Vegas is the only other team in the way before I get back to my second pick.
Gotcha. I hear
so I know Chase is going to be gone. I mean, as a Steelers fan, I was also a Steelers and Bears fan. That's a long story, but thank you for the number 32 pick for pretty much absolutely useless player. I hated Chase Claypool as just an overall player, but Chase is going to be gone. Money's going to go to Mooney. Then you have DJ. I am going to my number 2 wide receiver in the class, and that's Johnny Wilson. And I think if he ends up working on his hands, he might be the number 1 wide receiver for me in this class. One of the most freaky players I've ever seen in my entire life. He actually played against my school in high school. So he went to Calabasas. I went to Oaks Christian. So we got to see him plenty of times. And, just one of those dynamic athletes from high school. He was known as one of the best wide receivers in the nation. And, it's weird because he'll make the most beautiful, spectacular contested catches that you'll ever see. And then he'll just drop something like Mike Evans-esque. And you're like, what the hell? But 6'7", runs routes, is better than Xavier Worthy and might be running a sub 4.5, 240 pounds. Guy is a freak.
The 40 is going to be huge because I know some people who look at him, they're like, he kind of looks like he's 6'7". To me, though, he moves pretty well for that size. So even if he runs, let's just say 4.54, for me,
that's worth it.
7, that's enough. That's plenty. So love that type of addition. And I'm with you. I'm a Notre Dame fan and a Steelers fan. So like Chase Claypool was actually kind of born to be like my hero. But it just didn't work. And I go as far to say, I think Allen Robinson will play that same role in the Steelers offense and just do it better. Like I think legitimately he'll be a better contested catch guy than Claypool was before he got traded. And then shout out the Bears for giving us Joey Porter Jr. It's a story that writes itself. So then we get to the Raiders. So apologies again on my confusion.
No, you're good.
Dude, you look at the Raiders defense and I could point you in 1,000 different directions here. And really I'm contemplating, do I get Max Crosby some help? Do I get him some edge, reinforcements, maybe a Leatu Latu, maybe a Dallas Turner if he can find that next gear and find some counters to go along with his good first step and some solid.
With Tyree Wilson?
I know. Well, I think Tyree Wilson comes with a little bit of inside out flexibility. So I don't mind if you think Turner can be a guy who solely lives on the edge and move Wilson around. Also his foot injury. We'll see what he looks like this year. But because of what you just mentioned with Tyree Wilson, I'm going to go corner here, and I'm going to make the pick Kalen King. I just look at a guy who's super sticky in coverage, beyond gifted athlete, and I just look at that secondary right now for the Raiders, and I'm like, what is Patrick Graham supposed to do? Nate Hobbs is a good player, but I like him best in the slot. And then they're kind of just piecing together the outside. If you add Kalen King to that defense, I think you got a legit cornerstone for that secondary. Build upon, plus Trevon Merrick, Nate Hobbs in the slot. Okay, now we're building something forward for the Raiders.
Yeah, no, big fan of that one. Kalen King ended up being my number 2 corner. And I have a thing, I guess, for Penn State defensive backs. Jair Brown, obviously JPJ, and then the year before, Jaquan Brisker. Fell in love with them. And then even Amani Oruwariye back in the day. Just Penn State knows what they're doing. So Kalen King, great move there. For Chicago, the next pick, I'm actually going to go for my edge number 1 in the class, and that's Dallas Turner. I know I'm very much in the minority for loving Dallas Turner that much, but I think he is the most versatile edge rusher that I've ever seen. For being sub 245, he plays like he might be 265. I've seen guys who are 265, 270 who don't pop a lineman the way that he does. Unbelievable impact to the line of scrimmage. His technique is phenomenal, especially given the fact that you watch him year over year progression. He has gone and he's really learned from Will Anderson. He's not as good as Will, but he's certainly looking like he could develop and take another step this year and be competing on that level. It is arguably better as a zone coverage player than most of the linebackers in the class, which I find like ridiculous, but one of my favorite players for sure.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, sub 245, this guy, his ability to turn speed to power, it catches your eye right away because you're like, whoa, that shouldn't work that way. And if he gets a couple of inside counters, because he can consistently win beating outside or beating tackles on their outside shoulder. He can do that just about any time he wants. Get an inside counter on that, this guy's gonna be a force to be reckoned with. So like that pick, and actually my last mock, I gave Dallas Turner to the Bears. So it's actually a fit I really, really enjoy. And they need some defensive line help like nobody's business.
Sure.
Getting on to the Denver Broncos, man. This is kind of another team I want to know. Like, I feel like it's still hot and cold. What do people think about the Broncos? I am in the camp of Russell Wilson. I don't think he's terrible. He may be better than he was last year. But if people are thinking he's going to go back to prime Russ, I just think that's a little too much for me. So because of that, I could see them being 500-ish, maybe a little bit below that. 8-9, I think is what I had with my regular season predictions. But where are you at with the Broncos right now?
I have them at 10-7, but missing the playoffs. So same range.
Yeah. And that's, I could totally see that where Javonte Williams stays healthy. Tim Patrick, if my man could stay on the field, it'd be heaven sent. But even Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, that should be enough. That defense should be really, really good. Plus Vance Joseph, good DC. So all I have to say, I think this is a pretty solid unit. I just don't know really where to find the upgrades with the squad. So kind of buying myself some time here. They bring in Zach Allen during free agency. So I'll probably pass on Jerzon Newton for right now. Edge, I'm thinking about it. They did some work with interior offensive line. This is probably the hardest team I've run into yet. Could also go wide receiver and get some insurance there. I'm going to go Leatu Latu. I just partially because I don't really know where else to go here. Actually, my draft database has him in as a defensive lineman, so apologies for my delay there. Leatu Latu from UCLA. He's just a guy that if he didn't have the red note of being forced to medically retire, I feel like he'd be a lot higher on a lot of people's boards. But with that type of injury history, there's no guarantee what you're getting into. And then with Denver, I believe Baron Browning's legit at edge, but this will be the year where we really get an answer on that. So let's just say in this hypothetical, he doesn't pan out. They're looking for someone to pair up with Randy Gregory, and it's not Nick Benito, and it ends up being Leatu Latu.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Latu he's such an interesting player. You watch his arm length as well. This guy looks like Kevin Durant on the field. It's really weird, but very high upside player. I'm not there yet, but I'm one of those guys where I'm not huge on tools if I don't see a ton of translatable production. So, I mean, he's still, I believe, my edge 7, which is, it's within range of that top 5, but that neck injury scares the hell out of me for sure.
Yeah. Because we're about one hit to the head away from him, at least not playing football again. And that's tough.
It is very scary. For the Patriots, I am looking at offensive tackle for them. JC Latham's the easy option to go back to Bama, but I'm not going to. I think that the best option, and he's going to be a big riser, is down to Amarius Mims or Kingsley Suamataia. And I think they're going to go after the more fun option and not go back to Georgia. I'm going to go the BYU, formerly Oregon, right tackle, Kingsley Suamataia. He dropped 15 pounds in the offseason. You can see it in his face. Similar to Jordan Davis, how I saw him in an offseason lose weight. Give a lot of respect for those guys because that means they're really working on themselves. It's very easy to continue eating an 8,000 calorie diet and just be happy being 330 and a late first round pick. I think this guy is going to soar up the boards because I think his biggest issue was his mobility, and he's improved that probably exponentially.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Suamataia. He was my OT3, actually, my early rankings.
Oh, yeah.
Great size, love him as a pass protector. And then first half of last year, sub 60 run blocking grade. Second half last year, gets up into the 80s. And kind of like we talked about Jared Verse, I love seeing these guys go from small school to big school and it translates. I love seeing that type of massive improvement because it's just especially for a guy who hasn't had that much playing time, it's like light bulbs clicking. He's starting to figure it out. I think he'll get that much better. And especially you said cutting down 15 pounds. He's going to be that much more fleet of foot, on the move, become that much better of a run blocker, make his mirroring ability that much stronger. Love that addition there. So I'm right there with you, Suamataia. And that takes us into the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I hate to be boring here. You could definitely go corner, but I tend to find myself gravitating towards linebacker every August when it comes to mock drafts with the Steelers. They thought they had an answer with Devin Bush. But when you see a team back-to-back free agency periods sign a Miles Jack late in the process, sign a Quan Alexander late in the process, they're clearly not happy with what they have. And as a Steelers fan, I'm not happy currently with what they have. We'll see what Cole Holcomb's all about. But I'm going to go Barrett Carter. I mean, just an absolute freak show of an athlete. Great at crashing downhill. I just wish I could extract Jeremiah Trotter Jr.'s like pre-snap anticipation skills and just like put it into the body of Carter. Because then, for me, no doubt, he's off-ball linebacker 1. But that is a little bit of projection on my end. I'm fine with either one of those Clemson off-ball linebackers here for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, as a fellow Steelers fan, we both know ever since Shazier, we just haven't had what we really want in a linebacking core, which sucks because Steelers have kind of been known for having really good linebackers over their history and don't really have that. Barrett Carter is kind of just the return of the Isaiah Simmons show, which is like you have a freak that kind of could be positionless, but is he going to stick? I hope so, and I think so. I think we've learned our lesson from Simmons, and I'm praying to God that we'll get some good stuff with Barrett Carter here.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Minnesota. So if they're here at 16, I don't know. Is it time to start looking for a new quarterback? You're just continuing to pay Kirk Cousins to get you not that far, and in this case, not even in the playoffs. I don't think that's how it's going to roll. I have them winning their own division, to be fair. So actually, I think I have the Lions now winning, but they're still making the playoffs at 9-8 for me. I am going to go after a quarterback here in Joe Milton if they do not make the playoffs, because Joe Milton has been tested out as throwing over 90 yards in that game versus Clemson, which I'm going to heavily weight because that's the most recent tape that we have versus a competitive team. He threw a 75-yard pass that hit a wide receiver in the hands. So he's not like he's just a loose cannon out there. He knows how to throw the ball. Most of his misses were due to mechanical errors, and you got to see that, especially on some of those long throws. He had beautiful mechanics, showing he at least knows how to do it. So I'm excited to see if he turns back into the pumpkin of Michigan, Joe Milton, or if he's going to remain as the more polished prospect after learning from Hendon Hooker. Very excited to see, because this guy could be a huge riser.
And at the worst, you talk about the traits that are already there with Joe Milton. He's also playing on a Josh Heupel offense. So the dude's going to put up crazy big numbers as long as he stays healthy. They still have a lot of talent there on the outside. So I like the situation for sure. He is definitely a guy I'm kind of wait and see. He was on my honorable mentions for QB rankings. And I'm intrigued. Like, if he is the breakout candidate of this year's draft, wouldn't shock me whatsoever. And I think he had a 3-touchdown game against Missouri towards the end of last season. So we starting to see it. We're starting to see it a little bit. Now I just need to see it on a full season-long basis. And hey, for Minnesota, we were just talking about, could they be in on a Kyler Murray trade type of sweepstakes? So it totally makes sense for me. And Joe Milton, man, him, Jay Jets, Jordan Addison, that would be an offense that would be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
So then we get to Houston. And I'm going to go interior defensive line here. I'm going to go Jerzon Newton, also known as Johnny Newton. I just look at the Texans depth chart, and I mean, there's plenty of holes to go around. It's still a team that's in this little bit of a rebuild process. But really on the inside, I'm like, yeah, they could definitely use a big upgrade there. I like Jerzon Newton kind of playing that 3-tech spot, really stout against the run, really refined when it comes to his pass rush arsenal, like his hands a ton too, good enough athlete. Kind of my one negative is like, he's a 3-4 D end, 4-3 D tackle. He's the 3-tech. He's not going to play nose. He's not athletic enough to play on the edge. He's got a spot, and I think he'll be really good at it, but he's limited to that one spot. But I think for Houston, that's not too bad. He's an upgrade on what they have on the inside. Plus, obviously D'Amico Ryan's coming from San Francisco. They want that defensive line depth. They go Will Anderson at pick 3. Yeah, I mean, get some additional reinforcements inside Johnny Newton, that crew.
Definitely. I think that, have you seen Johnny Newton run in a straight line? It's ridiculous. This guy picks up, his top speed is like frightening for a man who's 300 pounds. That's what first stood out to me. And I actually restudied him to make sure that my last year grade is accurate. He ended up boosting up because I ended up watching more games. I was like, holy crap, this guy is ridiculous. Not somebody who I think can push the pocket very well, but his hand technique is so beautiful. You'll always see him swatting arms, doing crazy shit. So big fan of Johnny Newton for there. Chargers time. I think that I'm going to, I know Trey Pipkins is serviceable. I want to swing for the fences. I'm going on Marius Mims out of Georgia. The last time they picked a Georgia tackle, the guy's still on the team. And it's, Jamari Sawyer, who's now an interior offensive lineman. He's doing pretty damn well. Amarius Mims ended up showing out in his first start versus JT Tuimalau, Zach Harrison, Jack Sawyer, and he ended up balling out. He was the one who won that game. So instantly showed out versus top tier competition, and he is athletic, awesome player. Big fan of Marius Mims.
And I mean, you don't want a helmet scout, but all the same things that people loved about Broderick Jones, I could totally see the same conversation being had about Mims, because he's got the size, he's got the strength, got the movement skills, he's got all that. Now we just get to see what he looks like as a starting left tackle for the Bulldogs. So don't hate that whatsoever. And I'm with you. I'm not a Trey Pipkins guy. I don't think this is going to be the breakout season. Sorry, Chargers fans. I'm really excited about a lot of things on that roster.
Yeah.
Pipkins is not one of them, unfortunately. So I love the addition there of Mims. And, I'm almost interested, too, if we get to see any Jamari Sawyer at tackle. Pipkins looks a little rough, because that could be an play as well.
Yep.
But actually talking interior offensive line with Sawyer, I'm going to go exactly in that direction here for the New Orleans Saints. He's listed as a tackle on the mock draft database, mock draft simulator. But to me, I think Grant Barton is going to be kind of this year's Peter Skoronski. I think the arm length is going to ultimately force the conversation we had yet another draft cycle where it's like, is this guy tackle? Is he a guard? The only holdup I have here for New Orleans is they drafted Nick Saldiveri, first pick in day 3. Sounds like they're moving him to guard. So they kind of drafted that with a thought about it. They traded up for that first pick in the 4th round. So it seems like there's something there they like. But also Grant Barton could just be that immediate answer. Like, we're hoping Saldiveri is that. I feel pretty confident Barton would be a high-level guard, especially in pass pro. More than enough of an athlete to be a good enough fit in a zone blocking scheme, but he's strong enough to fit into a gap blocking scheme. I just think he's a perfect interior offensive line prospect. And here, we're into the 20s. We've gotten deep enough in the draft. I think the value is about right.
Yeah, I like that pick for sure. I like the fact that if injuries do occur as well, you can always kick him back out to tackle, kind of like a Zach Tom situation, but Zach Tom's actually working out as a tackle for Green Bay. New York, I'm going to actually go linebacker route here, and I'm not going to go Jeremiah Trotter. I'm going to go Tommy Eichenberg. He is tied as my linebacker number 1. I fell in love with Tommy Eichenberg last year. His on-field processing is unbelievable. Just someone who can navigate through moving traffic very well, and his tackling is rock solid. He's definitely the guy who held that Ohio State defense together, and maybe, I guess, they got torn apart versus Georgia, but who the hell didn't? But he's just an awesome player. I love him to death, and then having him and Bobby Okereke back there, I feel like it's one of those weak spots New York has just really yet to fully address, and they've just shown the ability to snipe guys on the offense down in day 2.
Yeah, no, and I like that addition a good bit. They add Bobby Okereke, and I'm like fascinated to see what that looks like in a Wink Martindale defense. Eichenberg's one of those guys that, like, again, I don't want to be lazy here, but I could see like a little bit of a Jack Campbell career arc for him here, where it's like all the talk about Campbell in August of last year was really good, smart, cerebral football player, but I just don't know if the athleticism's there. If Eichenberg has like a NFL combine showing of like 50th percentile or better, just like taking his entire like RES score, I think first round's totally in play, because athleticism is the only thing that sticks out as like, I wish there was more there, because everything else comes in very naturally. He's a football player without a doubt. And same thing I kind of said about Liam Eichenberg coming out of Notre Dame, but the game is just simple to him. I think Tommy Eichenberg at linebacker, I think it's the same thing all over again. So we get to Detroit, and I'm kind of going back and forth between corner and interior defensive line. But since Leonard Taylor has fallen this far, Leonard Taylor with Aiden Hutchinson, who people are hyping up that might have a 15, 20 sack season, which I'm not ruling that out. The way he played the last half of his rookie year, totally plausible. That's just the kind of leaping off point. Plus, I like the Lee McNeil coming on out of NC State a lot. Saw some games last year where the pass rush prowess was there. I think if you add Taylor into the mix, add another freaky athlete right in the middle of that defense, then we get that pass rush to another level. So I'm going to go Leonard Taylor there for Detroit.
I like it. I'm seeing where this player is, not the one that you just drafted, but I'm seeing where they have him ranked, because I know I'm higher on this right tackle for Miami than probably anybody on planet Earth. But his name is Taliese Fuaga. He's the the Oregon State right tackle. Just somebody I see unbelievable movement skills, great power, and then a ton of finesse. His only issue is when he misses, he whiffs. I'm not a huge fan of offensive linemen that whiff, because, you completely take yourself out of the play. And I think that I trust his ability to reduce that. But the first game I got to see was him versus Tuli Tuipulotu. And that's someone who I have a lot of respect for. So the fact that he held up and actually did a very good job that game versus high level talent, and he turned one of my favorite safeties into kind of like a tool on the field, and Kalen Bullock, he plowed him over twice. Very entertaining player. Do you see if he's on here?
I am not seeing him, and there are
Look at that
tackles in here, so they are, man, dirty. You want to go with Zion Nelson as a placeholder?
Yeah, because he screws Zion Nelson. Yeah, but yeah, we'll go with that. But
not a Zion Nelson guy? Oh, come on.
I am not a Zion guy. I have been a Zion guy like 2 years ago, and this guy's just played my heartstrings for a couple years now. Not a fan.
But this could be the year, and that's that. I find myself on the other side of that, where it's like, I think if he stays healthy, this is the year where he makes it happen. So we'll just throw Zion Nelson in there. Just well, yeah. One of us will be on the right side of this. But if he gets again, I don't know. PFF shows his like eligibility for like 2026. So with COVID and redshirt years, I don't doubt that maybe we're singing the same song and dance like another year from now. So we'll use Nelson as a placeholder though. But I really appreciate the deep dive there. We always love those deep cuts in August.
Yes.
Then we get to Jacksonville. Oh man. Another tricky team here. I'm going to probably initially thinking edge. I'm hopeful that Antonio Johnson kind of solves that slot corner strong safety part of the defense. I love the fit of Brian Branch to the Jags, and basically rounds 2 all the way up through 5 when Antonio Johnson was drafted by the Jags. I was like, please take Antonio Johnson. Please take Antonio Johnson. So I'm hopeful that it works out. But when I have a guy as a second rounder and he doesn't go until the 5th, there's something I don't know. So we'll have to kind of wait and see there.
Come on, man. Come on. You gotta be confident. You gotta be confident in that. Yeah, I had my number 53 player become a UDFA, and he ended up showing out last night in Ivan Pace. So it's okay. Be confident. He's gonna be a beat.
Talking to my buddy who's a Vikings fan, and I was like, dude, Ivan Pace is a guy to know. He's a perfect fit for Flores. So I'm glad that he's really worked out. I mean, good on you for having 53. Let's go. I love that.
I love him, man. I just got to see him in person though, because I go to SMU, so I got to see him like cause fights and stuff. I was like, I love this guy. I love him.
It's hard not to. Yeah. So for the Jags, I'm kind of going back and forth between safety and defensive line here. You know what? I'm going to go Cameron Kitchens. I think they could long-term use a safety upgrade. I liked Cisco. I wouldn't say I liked Cisco coming out of Syracuse, but I was intrigued by him. Definitely a lot of high upside playmaking ability. I think Rayshon Jenkins is a little bit overplayed, but he also made some big plays and big moments last year for Jacksonville. So, hey, maybe I'm just wrong. But also long-term, those guys, I don't know if they're the answer. Maybe Antonio Johnson just ends up manning the slot. Either way, even if Johnson does play strong safety, I think Kitchens is more than capable of just playing true free, and he'll be just fine. So I'm going to go Cam Kitchens here. Definitely thought about edge, JC Tuamelo, but decided to go with the Kitchens route.
Yeah, and also keeping Kitchens in Florida is always fun too.
Yeah, that's always fun.
I love Cameron Kitchens. I am going to take another deep dive on a player that I just found out about a couple weeks ago. And New York, it's no joke that they're trying to continue building for a Super Bowl, but they need to keep their quarterback healthy. Greeny was just, I just saw it on Twitter, him like praying to the gods for the O-line to stay strong and keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. I'm going to help him do that. Have you studied Tyler Guyton yet out of Oklahoma?
Not as much as I did with my other tackles. He was not in my honorable mentions, so it's probably a name I need to add to my circle back list.
So Tyler Guyton's the guy I'm going to take. He is an absolute freak show. I believe he's like around 6'7", 330, but he was the backup to Wanya Morris, but you got to see he actually started quite a few games last year. Just one of those guys where you see him, he's like a bull in a china shop, very aggressive. You can tell that there's a lot of energy to everything he does. He doesn't feel like a lazy blocker. You watch Joe Alt, for example, he's a very calm blocker. You don't get to see him just absolutely wrecking people. He'll just control the situation. Guyton is going to be someone where I'm going to absolutely annihilate you. Your mom is going to be worried on the sideline. Your auntie on the TV is going to be ripping her wig off. Like, it's going to be terrible, but this guy has so much energy that I love it. There's a lot of obviously mechanical errors that he has, but he needs time to start. He needs time to grow. And having Anton Harrison as well as Wanya Morris is a really good set of mentors for him to have had. And you can start seeing it progress over the year. A very fun player to watch, and definitely one of those names that I'm keeping in my top 64.
Awesome. I love that. And that's also the fun of doing this in August. It's like, have you watched this guy? No, I haven't yet. Okay, well, good thing you got 8 months until April.
Exactly.
So here we go. We got plenty of time, man. It's also the best. You get so hype on these guys in August. They have a terrible year, and it's like, oh, well, they're UDFA, so no worries. But I did like them in August, so
Yep.
A lot of different pathways all this could break out. But I'm going to have to add Guyton to my circle back list.
He's fun. He's
really for Seattle, man. This interior offensive line is what they have as one of the top needs here. I think I'm actually okay on that right now. I love the Olu Oluwatimi, sixth round or fifth round pick where they got him. I think he's a plug and play starter for them. I'm not too worried about that. Quarterback, maybe. We haven't had Quinn Ewers come off the board yet. Michael Penix, that could be a kind of a fun story. Keeping him up in the Pacific Northwest, but ultimately, I think I'm just going to go edge here. I'm going to go JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. Guy with the perfect size to be a power rusher, an abundance of power, and a full moveset. Like, this guy doesn't really need to be coached up on like that aspect of his game. I'm just hoping this year he's a young guy, rising true junior, that we just get to see a little bit more explosiveness, and we get to see just that killer instinct maybe come out a little bit more. Like, I'm going to take this game over. This one's mine. But you also look at Ohio State and their defensive line. Like, the guy has been in a rotational role. Him and Jack Sawyer, same thing, where it's just like, we just don't know yet, really. So I'm going to go ahead and anticipate solid season for Tuimoloau, highly touted recruit. This is the year he puts together, sees the field a ton, gets that good production. And I'm looking at Seattle, and it's like Uchenna Nwosu, kind of a hybrid awful linebacker, edge rusher, Boye Mafe, a little undersized, edge rusher from Auburn, Derek Hall. Good enough speed to power, but not necessarily the biggest and widest frame and most powerful rusher, maybe. So let's say Tuimoloau is kind of the perfect complement for those guys.
I'm not going to tell you what I think about JT.
Oh, man, no, you got to split. You can't tease us like
that. He is right now. I'm just checking it. He is my edge 13.
Okay.
I am not a fan. I just don't really see. I understand like it's all projection. I mean that it is. That's just the truth. And I already said earlier, I'm not a projection guy. That's just not my thing. I project on some players, but when it comes to JT, I didn't see projectable traits the way I wanted to. And I mean, again, Amarius Mims ended up looking like, a top 5 pick when he never played a legitimate amount of snaps before. So I'm just going to be taking the hot seat on that one, but I'm very excited to be proven wrong. I'm an Ohio State fan. Who the hell wouldn't want to be proven wrong by JT?
It's called emotional. You're just emotionally hedging this upcoming season for the Buckeyes.
Exactly. You already know. But for the Baltimore Ravens, I am going to have a little bit of a Michigan connection here. Interior defensive lineman Chris Jenkins going and being able to assist on the interior, having him and then Travis Jones continue to work his way up. That's going to be a nasty front for a while. And then pairing him with eventually David Ojabo, always going to be a very nice combination there.
Yeah, and of course, you got Mike McDonald, former DC for Michigan. Yep. Like, just envisioning a run-stopping tandem of Jenkins and Travis Jones. Mm-hmm. At that point, I look at Baltimore's interior defensive line. I'm like, we're passing on every down. Forget about early downs. We're just passing solely this defense. I would love that pairing. Chris Jenkins is one of those guys where it's like, he's 290. There's no way. He plays the run so much better than someone that you would call, quote unquote, undersized there. So big fan of it. And he looks like a guy whose dad played in the NFL and was a high level run defender. He's definitely got that technique down.
For sure.
So then we get to Dallas here at 27. I have been an absolute degenerate and just time and time giving them a running back because I always want to talk about the running backs in this class. But I tend to be someone who maybe is a little slow to wanting to put running backs in the first round. So, Trey Benson, I think, would actually be a really fun ad. Braylon Allen is this guy who at age 18 and 19 has busted off back-to-back 1,200-yard seasons. Freak show. But also, Rocket Sanders, Travion Henderson, another guy from the state of Virginia that, number 1 running back recruit when he came out. Blake Corum's currently my RB1. So I'm kind of going back and forth between Corum and Benson. Let me phone a friend here. Between those two, who would you rather see wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey?
I'd say Benson. To be 100% honest, I had Deuce Vaughn as my number 37 player in the draft. Another one of those guys where I am very opinionated. So I love Deuce, and I'm actually seeing him. So since I live in Dallas, I'm actually going to the Jaguars game this weekend. So we're going to see how he performs live, but he's been doing well. I don't really want to have 2 guys who are sub 5'10" being my running backs. Personally, I like to have a little bit of a change of pace there, and I love Trey Benson. So I have Corum as my 1 as well, but personally, I'd go Jeremiah Trotter here.
Oh, okay. I already made the
But
pick with Benson. I do like the
but
shout out. I'm
yeah,
kind of waiting to see what Damone Clark or Jabril Cox, maybe what they do this year. Also, I was a big
yeah.
DeMarvion Overshone guy.
Mm,
Loved the growth that we saw specifically as attacker at Texas. So again, kind of felt
yeah.
like the light bulb had been flipped for him. So we'll see how those other younger linebackers play. I'll go Benson, and plus, I'm just imagining. Let's just say all stays the same. Mike McCarthy's still the play caller, Dak's still the quarterback, all that.
Mm,
A pass catching duo. Let's say Tony Pollard leaves. If you have Deuce Vaughn and Trey Benson as like two guys that can line up at the same time in the backfield, like nightmares for safeties, nightmares for linebackers on top of CeeDee Lamb
yeah.
and Brandon Cooks and plenty of other pass catchers they have. So instead of go Benson, I do like the Jeremiah Trotter Jr. shout though.
Yes. So for the Bills, I'm down to, I believe, 3 guys. I got JC Latham here, but I don't feel like he's polished enough to just step in and play. I'd rather go after a veteran route. So he's kind of like my honorable mention for this pick. I'm looking at Cooper DeJean as a safety.
Ooh.
And this guy, one, he's used to the elements because I was not necessarily your California weather here. But he is somebody, he has amazing size. He's great in a straight line and kind of just needs more work on the finesse part of the game, but great ball hawk, great returner as well. I think that he'd be an excellent addition to this team, but it's hard to pass on Jeremiah Trotter when I do have faith in Terrell Bernard. I'm pretty solid with Dorian Williams. I just don't think they get close to Jeremiah Trotter. And it's big shoes and Tremaine Edmonds to replace. So I'm going to go Jeremiah Trotter.
Trotter is the pick. And it's funny. Right after we finished the Dallas point, I almost said you could go Trotter here. So I'm actually glad that you are going Trotter here. I like your other two shouts there. Latham, he's a little too handsy for me. 11 penalties last year. It's when he guesses wrong, he just grabs and, it's first and 20 then. But it's currently Spencer Brown playing right tackle for the Bills. So we'll see what his year 3 entails. It may not be any worse if you try to give Latham a shot. And DeJohn is like this, like corner. Maybe he plays some safety, obviously coming from a zone heavy defense at Iowa. I actually think that would be a really good add for that Sean McDermott defense. And if you're a good team, loading up in the secondary to me is never a bad option. Like just always have guys who can fill in and play. So, but Jeremiah Trotter Jr., you pair him up with Dorian Williams. I think that's your long-term pairing moving forward. I like that a lot. So then we get to San Francisco. Man, I just look at that offensive line right now, and I'm just like, I'm just not happy with where it's at. We'll see what Colton McKivitz turns into. Again, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I never thought Aaron Banks was a good fit for that zone blocking scheme. He's just, his movement skills really weren't his calling card. Just a bizarre pick. Leave it to Shanahan to draft the wrong type of guard for his zone blocking scheme, and for him to draft a running back somewhere there on day 2. It's just almost certainly one of those two things that is going to happen. So I'm kind of looking at Latham again. There's things to be cleaned up there, but if you add him into a Shanahan offense, we're more than likely the assignment's a little bit easier, and he's kind of kept clean. I mean, he's got some top end plays where it's like this guy could easily be OT3 in this class. So Latham's who I'm kind of thinking about, or you go into your offensive line. Donovan Jackson's kind of an upside play, former 5-star recruit. Cedric Van Pran, I don't think is a perfect fit for this blocking scheme. Christian Mahogany maybe could be in play here, but I'll go JC Latham. I'll go Latham here and say that the Colton McKivitz experiment does not work out. They're looking for a right tackle of the future, and Latham is that guy.
I think that's a smart move. You also have Trent Williams to be his mentor, so that's just always fun. Always fun to do that. Also, I probably would have taken Latham for Cincinnati and just seen what would have happened, have Orlando Brown train up Latham. But unfortunately, you disarmed me of my favorite pick. I am going to actually go Cooper DeJean as the safety to pretty much be the Jesse Bates long-term replacement. Ball hawk, great speed, great size, and then pairing him up with Dax Hill would be awesome.
Yeah, and like we talked about with the Bills, add to the secondary. The Bengals, spoiler alert, are going to be a good team. If Joe Burrow's half does not just fall off his body, they're going to be a good team. They're going to be having teams pass the ball against them playing catch up. So always adding that secondary. I am always here for that.
Definitely.
Next up, Philadelphia. Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those teams that's kind of hard to draft for, kind of like Denver we talked about earlier, where it's like you look at the roster and it's like, where is that spot where this team has a glaring need and they can definitely get better? If Trotter was still on the board, I'd probably just do that, pair him up with Nakobe Dean, and say, hey, why not? Let's just fill that one last spot on the roster where maybe could get better. Corners intriguing. We've kind of gone on a cold streak here. I haven't talked about a whole lot of corners other than DeJean, if you call him a corner, but corner safety flexibility, I think.
Yeah.
Safety is also an interesting one, but they also drafted Sidney Brown out of Illinois. I like that fit a ton. I actually think Reed Blankenship will actually work out fine as a free safety, so I'm not too worried about that. What do we think about Javon Bullard from Georgia, though, to play the slot, be that long-term, dare I say, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson replacement? The fact that he let CJ Gardner-Johnson leave leads me to think that Sean Desai doesn't see that role in his defense.
Yeah.
It's the rich get richer. Let's go ahead and find a place for Javon Bullard. So I don't know. That's kind of my initial lean. This team also loves edge talent, so we could always just add one more guy there. What do you think right here for Philadelphia?
I mean, Philly, you could always go that edge route because of the fact that, you're probably going to end up losing BG eventually. And then Josh Sweat, not necessarily the longest term option. Derek Barnett, probably not either. Corner is intriguing, but I don't think they're going to target it. But if Denzel Burke is here or Kamari Lassiter, you can pair Kamari up back with, and have the long-term option there with Kamari and Keeley because they don't have to immediately start. Linebacker, it's funny that you bring up Trotter because I think his dad was on the team as well. So, always fun there. But I'd always throw in, I think they would trade out of the first round if they're going to go a linebacker because that's just a Philly Eagles thing to do. But Jamon Dumas-Johnson is a fun one. Another Georgia player.
Yep. I was about to say, when you said last year, I was like, well, damn, this team only drafts Bulldogs. So yeah,
I know.
Or the linebacker spot there could be another one. Junior Colson, maybe from Michigan, could be another linebacker option here. We'll see what type of season he has. But I also think you mentioned trading back. If this was the board I had here, also Philadelphia is prone to trade back no matter what the situation is. But this was definitely a spot where I'm like, hey, trade back, let someone draft Mason Smith or something along those lines. I'm gonna go with Kamari Lassiter. I don't hate that shout. Also, it's just kind of fun. Let's just keep the train rolling where this team just drafts nothing but Georgia Bulldogs. Pair him up with Keely Ringo, and we'll see where the secondary goes in 2 years.
No, I love that because I didn't even think about it. If I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't even think about the fact that Kamari was Georgia or Jamon Dumas-Johnson. I was looking at them as player talents. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then I was like, wait, Kamari's played with Keeley and he's a Georgia Bulldog. And then Jamon is also a Bulldog. I love it overall. Great.
You're going to stack your defense with guys from the 2021 Georgia team. That's the greatest defense in college football history. And then the 2022 defense wasn't terribly far off. It's not a bad team building strategy. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So for me on this last selection, I'm looking at tight end because I think Jatavian Sanders could be a really fun option. Travis Kelce's 34, will be 35 at this time. Definitely a good option, but I feel like the value of this player, who I have still in my top 7, is worth it. Spag likes big dudes. I like George Karlaftis. I think that he has versatility inside and out. They just drafted a first-round edge rusher and Felix Onudike-Uzomah. I'm going to continue the train with Braylon Trice out of Washington. I think that guy's spectacular.
And I mean, we'll see what this year looks like in general for the Pac-12 because they're currently self-imploding. But he dominates against offensive tackles from the Pac-12. Like, he's just so much stronger. He's just a different breed of pass rusher there. So like that. And again, kind of like when we talked about adding secondary players for the Bills and for the Bengals, they're going to need to pass to play from behind against Kansas City. So let's just have 4 or 5 guys. Let's just steal the Philly MO and just have nonstop resources there at edge. I love that a ton. So I'm going ahead and scrolling across all 32 picks that we made here in this mock draft. I think it was a really fun one. And also, it's very unique. It's definitely different than the ones that I put together so far on the channel. You mentioned Jatavian Sanders. He's definitely the first name that I'm like, if I could add one more guy to this first round, I think he's a freak show. If Brock exists, easy tight end one for me, but Brock Bowers is probably the best tight end I've ever looked at and scouted. So there's that. Mason Smith, high upside play. We'll kind of see where he goes. But any other names you're like, hey, if I had one more pick, I'd want to get them in?
Definitely Denzel Burke. I'm a big fan of him personally, and at the end of the year, he continued getting better and better. And even versus top guys like AD Mitchell, he still was performing at a high level, even with that sophomore drop off. Just been dealing with the same type of injuries and stuff. And, again, it's okay for someone to take a quick step back as long as they're getting better and getting back to where they were. So definitely see a big year out of him. Other guys, I mean, shoot, I think we got the majority of the ones. Keon Coleman out of Florida State, though.
Yep.
That guy's a monster. I might have to put him even over Denzel Burke because he's just such a freak show at 6'4", 215.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the best part is like, we may get, I don't know, 4 months from now and be like, man, we weren't talking about this guy, but he
Mm.
broke onto the scene. Like, obviously the easy examples like, oh, Joe Burrow was like a 6th round guy and then he became the number 1 pick. Or for that, RG3 was on no one's radar, ends up being the number 2 pick. So still a lot of guys we just don't even really know about just yet. But man, this has been a lot of fun, Alex. So let me give you a chance to shout it out. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so I'm Hail Mary Sports. You just add an extra S if you want to find me on Twitter. I also have a TikTok, but that's like, we're not going to sell our soul to the devil too much yet. But definitely on TikTok, if you want to hear me speak incoherently, if you want to hear me speak coherently, follow me on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, Alex, this has been a ton of fun having you on the channel, man. I hope we get to do this again once we get deeper and deeper into draft season. But this was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you taking the time, man.
Of course. Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this updated 2024 mock draft. Let me hear your thoughts and your picks and what you thought about the selection for your favorite team down below in the comment section. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and of course, you haven't heard of Hail Mary Sports, definitely go give him a sub as well. That's going to do it for us. Until next time, we are signing off.